Yes, beautiful people. It is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead one more time. I am your boy Zamboni, and it is time to get into it. This week is it is off. It's honestly much more of the same this week. There's not a lot of major changes taking place this week, except that the sun is moving into Aries, from Pisces into Aries. This is the spring equinox, and it is a return to power for the sun, which is likely to be helpful. It's likely to be good to have a certain kind of central authority that feels strong and powerful in itself. The sun has not been very strong for a while now, and it'll be cool to have some of that centralized, just a sense of, the sun is the center of things. The sun is the one who is in the middle of the solar system. It's why we call it the solar system. And it's the sun is very sort of powerful unto itself. And in Aries, the sun is exalted. The sun does really well in that position. And so, the thing about that is that it's not just the sun in Aries, but we also have Venus there in Aries, and we've got Mercury there in Aries as well, and both of those folks are retrograde. So actually this week we're going to see the Venus Cazimi, which is to say that so Venus is retrograde and is going to come in and conjoin the sun. So what we're looking at here is we're not looking at Venus. Venus is under the beams of the sun. The sun is too bright for Venus to be seen in the sky right now. And so what's happening there is Venus is going under the fires of the sun and is being cleansed. All of the dross is being burned off. That is not a particularly comfortable process. That's the kind of thing that is typically difficult for the Venus thing. So Venus's job is to bring cooperation and togetherness, to sort of remind us of our values and the things that matter, and bring those things that matter into a space where we can connect over them. That's Venus's job. In Aries and retrograde in Aries, things have been kind of combative. It's been easy to get to a place where competition feels like it wants to be the most important thing. There's a kind of fight around, the Venus retrograde is a time when the values are not clear, and you have to get clear on the values. And so there might be fights taking place, especially with Mercury retrograde here at the same time. There's miscommunications or things getting said and just talking past each other, it's easy to even be in a place where you understand what's going on the other side of the engagement, and still just think it's some bullshit. And it's you're not looking at the right piece here. Here's the right piece to look at. And the other person is that's not the right piece. You're not looking at the right piece. This is the right piece. And then you just kind of keep talking past each other. That is super possible under this kind of arrangement. And so there's a question here about what are the most important values to me and in this relationship. The relational piece is Venus is always going to be engaged in relationships. Now, Venus is not we can always take a look at what kind of relationships are sort of center stage here. And if you want help doing that kind of thing, then you can go to zambonifunk.com. I am happy to do a reading for you. You can check out, there's a 10-minute option, which is basically the same thing as this, where I'll look at your chart and I'll do a video reading that I send to you. You can also get a half hour or an hour long reading where we'll talk together and we'll sort of be able to get into greater depth that way. Or if you don't want to hear me do it, but you want to learn how to do it yourself, you can also find at zambonifunk.com Astrology from the Ground Up, which is the course that I did. And it comes with a workbook, and there's lectures and homework to go with that, so that the goal is to train up strong astrologers, and I think that is well possible with that course. So go to zambonifunk.com. There's also music there. There's a podcast there. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff. Check it out, zambonifunk.com. So if you were to get a reading about this Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde that's going on here, then what I would do is I would look at your chart and be like, okay, what house is this taking place in? Where can we, the houses are going to show us where we can locate a particular aspect in the life of the native. And so it might be a partnered relationship that you're navigating because it's in your 7th house or making aspect to the ruler of the 7th or something like that. It might be a career situation if it's in the 10th, or aspecting the ruler of the career, or this kind of thing, right? So there are lots of places where we have relationships in our lives. Maybe there's a parental kind of situation or something like this. And so those places, it's going to be really easy to be antagonistic toward the other person, especially with Aries is like kind of competitive from the jump, right? And then we add that Mars is the ruler of Aries, and Mars is in Cancer, feeling super sensitive about stuff and also making a square aspect to everything. So there's like there's a kind of rising tension that comes along with that kind of thing. And so it looks like the sort of thing where it, especially during the Cazimi. So the Cazimi is like the hottest point, right? So like when you get closer and closer to the Cazimi means in the heart of the sun, right? So in the heart of the sun is when they are perfectly conjunct. They are in the same spot. That is likely to be a kind of aha, or a moment of clarity. That kind of clarity comes after getting into the heart, right? So there's like fire going on, and it's hotter and hotter and hotter. And then it is through that process that you get this moment of clarity, this like moment of like, oh, this is what really matters. And so, you know, you have to burn off all the other stuff that doesn't matter. It's like, oh, this other stuff that I had been fighting for, that it's like not actually at the heart of the issue. And so we can expect, and so the nice thing about the Cazimi is that it's not only clear, but then also at that point you can start to move out of the furnace, right? So still at this point we are moving deeper and deeper into the heat of the situation, and that looks like it is more and more loud and raucous and uncomfortable and angry and upset and that sort of thing, right? Once we hit this Venus Cazimi moment, which is I think on Saturday, then we start to move out of the situation and start to think different thoughts about what's going on, and sort of you know, solutions become possible at that point. But before that point, there's a lot of like getting deeper and deeper into the weeds, and things become more and more difficult, or combative. Like it's going to be so easy to be antagonistic at this time. So with that in mind, it's going to be a really good idea to spend the time looking at what really matters, and is it worth the antagonism. Sometimes it's going to be worth the antagonism. Sometimes you're going to have to fight it out. Sometimes you're going to have to, like, that push and pull tension is the kind of thing that can take you to, it can improve your own position by having to navigate the difficulty with someone else. And that, I think, is a place where the sun in Aries really shines. The sun is, you know, the heat of the sun does well in Aries, the sort of like centrality, the like pay attention to me focus of Aries. The sun does really well in that sort of position. And so to get to a place where there's a sense of self that is strong and powerful and knows what really matters and is able to communicate that. We'll see the Mercury Cazimi next week. Early on in the week next week, we'll see the Mercury Cazimi. Same sort of situation. Mercury is the communicator planet, but is retrograde. So we're looking at miscommunications and delays and talking past each other and all that sort of stuff. And then in the Cazimi moment, there's a moment of clarity that you can then start to be like, okay, we have not been communicating on these issues. And so we can work on getting those things together so that we connect better. Like that sort of stuff is possible, especially once the sun gets into Aries and we get into those Cazimi points, and it's like, okay, there is a centrality and a clarity to that. We are on the way to that. There is discomfort before that, but We can make it, y'all.